Hello, everyone. I'm Kanisha Grayson, founder and CEO of The Art of Applying. We help people get into the world's best grad schools and get money to pay for it. Today, we have our amazing client, Surabhi, here to share her story. I'm so excited to celebrate you, have you share your story and hear your advice and encouragement you have for other applicants. Good evening, Surabhi.
Hi, Kanisha. Good evening. Or good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning for me. So, Surabhi, the first thing I always love to start with is the celebration, just like we always start on our client group coaching calls. So what are we celebrating today?
We are celebrating that I got into my dream school, which is, the best celebration that I could think of by almost the end of my engagement with Art of Applying. So I got into Harvard Kennedy School. I've been planning to go to HKS for about 6 years now, and my dream is finally coming true. That's what we're celebrating. And of course, I also applied to other schools. I got into Columbia, SIPA. I got into Chicago, Harris. And some good news from Princeton as well. So yeah, this is what we're celebrating.
Fantastic. So one thing I don't want to play down is you said some good news from Princeton. So does that mean you got into Princeton with the full, what did you get?
No, I'm waitlisted at Princeton, which honestly was a big surprise and really good news for me, because Princeton was not a school that I was really keen about because I didn't think I had the right profile. But my consultant really intervened, and she almost pushed me to talk to people from Princeton and said, no, you got this, you can do this, apply. And when I heard from Princeton, when I was looking at all my schools, I was like, and I was telling people, I'm never going to get into Princeton because I don't have a public service background, and I don't think that I fit in there with my GPA and my GRE score. So therefore, I was like, I'm not going to get in. But just to get waitlisted, and the class is so small, so just to get waitlisted, I really thank my consultant for that.
Beautiful. And I know exactly how you feel, Surabhi. That's how proud I felt when I got waitlisted at Stanford. I was like, the Stanford GSB incoming class is so small. It's a fraction of the incoming Harvard class. And to be waitlisted, hey, that's, I feel good.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Wow, that is excellent news. And Surabhi, did you get any fellowships or any scholarships from any of your schools?
I did receive a $15,000 scholarship per year scholarship from Chicago Harris, and I am of course asking for more, so maybe good news on that, but that's about it for now.
Okay, awesome. Okay, those are all great results. So now let's rewind to the past. And you've been wanting to go to Harvard Kennedy School for 6 years, so I would love to know kind of approximately when you found the Art of Applying, how you found us, and then what resonated with you that made you reach out for help.
Well, interestingly, Kanisha, and I don't know if I've told you this before, but I found you exactly 6 years ago, the year that I thought about going to Harvard Kennedy School. And I have subscribed to your emails, since then, or maybe like a few years after that. But when I started researching about HKS, and of course, I've been working for about 7.5 years now. So I've known about HKS, I've known seniors who've gone, I've known peers who've gone. So it was always on my mind. And when I thought about it, and I started thinking about really applying, I sat down and did my research. So I have a research background, so that's my first go-to instinct. I did my research to find out how difficult is it to get in, what is it that you need to do, what are the opportunities you get after graduating from HKS. And I found you I don't know if I found Art of Applying, but I found you, and I found one thing that resonated quickly, and which is why I subscribed to your emails and then eventually became a client of Art of Applying, was as an education consultant, you see them sometimes as a factory producing standardized steps. This is what you have to do. Do this, and then you get in, sort of a thing. And I liked your honesty and the genuineness with which you portrayed the process, which was, here is something that worked for me. And of course, it helped that you went to HKS and therefore you could speak with that authority. You said that this is what worked for me, and I'm going to teach you how you can sort of apply these tools that I've been using for your own application. So that's when I was like, okay, I subscribed to your mailing list, and I've been getting a lot of emails. And I kept reading all of the emails, and there was something extremely optimistic about it. There was a lot of optimism in your tone. So that's, that sort of drew me closer. And at the end of every year, you would send an email with, are you sure, are you going to do this year or not, sort of a thing, just so if anybody's just been on the mailing list not doing anything, they could get off. And that's what used to get me thinking, am I doing this year? Am I going to do it? So finally, when I decided this year that last year, 2019, that, let me go ahead and apply, if not anything else. I don't even remember looking at any other consulting group at all. I knew I was going to go with the art of applying. So it was a very, very easy decision to make. But of course, the process, I reached out to your team, and then that decision from reaching out to really investing as a client in art of applying, that took a lot of thinking, a lot of other people sort of weighing in. And yeah, that's how it all started.
Beautiful. I love that story. Wow. 6 years. That's amazing. That's amazing. And it makes me really happy to hear that, because we have people in the background, working to make sure that our newsletter comes out every week, and that these testimonial videos get edited and put on YouTube, and that everything is running in the background. It's not just me, so I'm the face, right? There's a whole team really working together, and it means a lot to me to know that their efforts are bringing in the right people and making the right people aware that we exist, and warming them up and helping them to know, like, and trust me and the team and our process and our program. So that just makes me really happy. So thank you for sharing that. So you talked about the process to go from, wanting to work with us to actually working with us. Took a lot of thinking and input from other people. So of course you had a breakthrough call, and I would love to kind of know what it's an hour, right? So what did you, it's a free call, it's an hour. What did you think the breakthrough call was going to be like? And how did you feel when we asked you to bring your husband?
Sure. I like that you talked about your team, in terms of how there's so many people putting in the work. And I think during the breakthrough call, I had a very genuine fear, which was that I see Kanisha, I see her name on all of the newsletters, and I see her talking on Facebook groups, putting her expertise and advice, but am I going to get the same level of commitment, dedication, expertise from everybody in her team? And I think that was something that I was a little hesitant about. And the breakthrough call sort of just completely, helped me rethink that entire fear. So when the breakthrough call happened, I think the dedication with which we were discussing what is possible was something that really kept me going. There was no, look, this is not happening for you. This is happening for you. I hate that. I absolutely do not like that, because I like to make those decisions for myself. What I got from the breakthrough call is, this is what we can offer. You tell me what you can bring to the table, and let's see if we can work together. And that was what I wanted out of this process. I did not want, and I was very clear. I remember saying this on my breakthrough call, that I know I have a story to tell. I know that I have a story to tell, but I don't know how to tell that story. And I also do not want to go, blindsided by the process of this. I don't come from the US. I'm in India. I have not, my way of thinking, my cultural, understanding of the US, all of this is from a different perspective. Therefore, I don't want to be going into the process of applying to a US school without knowing what is expected of me, process-wise, pitch-wise, all of that. So I had that level of confidence that I was bringing. And through my breakthrough call, I got even more confident in terms of the team that I was going to be working with, wherein this team was not going to be like, you do this or you don't do this, and you don't. It was more of, here are your options. You select, you choose the path. So this was what my breakthrough call was. And of course, I asked 100 questions. And then my husband asked 100 questions. And then we had a discussion with my mother, and she asked 100 questions. I'll answer your question about my husband being on the call. I really liked that bit, because it was a joint decision. It was although my mother was not part of the call because I didn't want her to be a part, my mom wanted my husband to be, my mother also played a super important role in sort of helping me make this decision, as she does with everything. But everybody was involved, and I was able to get my husband to not just hear from my end that this is something that I want to do, but for him to sort of get that confidence. And you'd be so surprised. Actually, maybe not, but something really, adorable happened, which was that when I heard from HKS, one of the few things, of course, after hugging me and congratulating me, my husband goes, "Oh my God, Kanisha was right. Oh my God, this is, this worked." And so he was so part of the process, and he had that confidence, and he saw me doing the calls, and he respected that process because he sort of knew what was going on as well. So yeah, this was the breakthrough call, and everybody being involved. It was a joint decision, which I really liked.
Oh, that was lovely. You share your story so well, Surabhi. So, wow, that was great. All right, so how did it feel making the investment? It's not a small amount of money, but it's also just a fraction of what it costs to go to one of these schools. So how did it feel making the investment, and how does it feel having made the investment now that you see the results?
Sure. I think that at that point in time, yes, it was a big amount, especially because you don't factor this in as the first sort of expense. You think about, yeah, this is how much I'd have to pay, etc. But you don't, when you're thinking of graduate school, at least from where I come from, you don't think that, okay, look, I need to set aside a certain amount for consultant who's going to help me. So it's not intuitive in that way. And one of my friends who applied to LSE and who's from LSE, etc., she was like, "What are you doing? I did this by myself. What are you doing?" And I said, I have applied to MIT once before for a program in political theory, which was a very research-centric program. And I remember that process, that one, like I said, I didn't know what was going to work in a US school. And second, I got a rejection. So I was like, look, I'm not doing this wrong again. I'm doing this right. And I don't care what the results are. I have taken a decision to apply, and I'm going to do it in the best possible way. So keeping that in mind, I think it became a little easier to know that I'm making such a big investment. And I think something that you said, I'm not sure if you said this or somebody in the team said it, but I read somewhere that this investment that you're making to work with the art of applying would probably be, would come back to you as double, triple returns. And that happened. That happened. So I'm like, now it just makes absolute sense. It was a little difficult to take that decision then, but now it makes sense that I have gotten better returns out of it. So yeah, it was a tough decision, but honestly, it was a very comforting decision to make.
Yes.
To know that you have a team.
Yes, I totally get that comforting decision, because you make one all in, let's do it decision. And then it's just like, we're just here for you, yes. Right? Were you with us on Saturday when I did that bonus call for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So, it's not like, oh, well, you paid this, so, we're done. You're with us all the way through May 1st. So you're still our client. I mean, you'll always be in our hearts, our client, but our engagement's still going through May 1st, and we're still working with you guys to get everything as buttoned up and optimized and maximized as possible. So yeah, there really is a comfort in just making that decision, committing, being decisive, trusting, taking that leap of faith, and then just being like, hey, we got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So Surabhi, what were the things that you really wanted help with in your application? And then what did that look like for you once you got in the program?
I think one was that I have been so keen on HKS that I came in thinking that that's it. That's all I was going to do. So I'll talk about everything around the application and the application itself. So everything around the application in terms of, when do you take the GRE? How many times do you take the GRE? It never occurred to me that I should be doing this again and again so that I get an optimum score. What time of the year? When do you write the application? When do you do the GRE? right? And how many schools to apply to, why it's important to apply to multiple schools so that you can negotiate once you're done, when you get in, etc. So these were around the scholarship, the application process that were really important to me. Within the application process itself, I don't know where to begin, Kanisha. I think
I can walk you.
everything in the application accelerator, those modules was so helpful. How to write, what am I pitching, having conversations with my consultant on what am I pitching, being on weekly Q&A calls to, where there are not just, it was not just me, there were so many people in the same boat, reviewing each other's application and talking to people who've been there, done that, who know the process, getting your story right, and those number of edits, right? So when my consultant looked at it, she would give me X number of edits, and then the green light reviewer had another perspective. So just taking all of that in and then perfecting that story. I don't think that. So what happened was that I finished writing my application, my essays for HKS fairly before the deadline itself. I don't think I would have done that. Absolutely, I would have done that without Art of Applying. It would have been impossible. I would have probably pushed it till the last week and written just something. But every single word of my essay was edited not just by somebody who's a writing expert, who's the green light reviewer, my consultant who knows my story, who's invested in my story. It was like every single word sentence made sense. And until it made sense, we kept working on it again and again and again. So it really was perfect.
Oh, that's beautiful. It really was perfect. And I know I looked at your stuff a few times myself. Some of the all client Q&A calls. Awesome. Yeah. So, I'm just going to ask you about some specific elements of the program and what you liked about them specifically. Sure. First, everybody watching, everybody in the Application Accelerator, all of our clients will receive a dedicated consultant. So this is usually someone who shares their background or is an alum of one of their target schools and or has helped other clients get into schools that the person is aiming for. So first, let's just talk a little bit about what the one-on-one coaching calls, one-on-one questions in your private client portal and the editing that you did with your consultant, what that was like.
My consultant has possibly given me the most important, gift through this entire process. And that was, she gave me confidence. I did not come into Art of Applying knowing that, like I said, that I don't have a story or I don't know how, what I'm going to say or not say, but it was more about, does my story matter? How does my story matter? And how can I make sure that somebody else knows that I come from this much experience and these are my aspirations and I belong in HKS? So I think that is what my consultant, in fact, we had this conversation and she said that your writing is good. What can I do for you? And I said, just keep reassuring me every single time, every single call that you got this, that was so important. And then of course, because she is somebody who's worked with you for such a long time and therefore has been through so many application cycles, she was able to sort of, I was able to get that, not just that confidence, but that confidence with knowing that she's an expert at this.
That's right.
So that was so important for me. And my one-on-one coaching calls with my consultant were very, very easy and friendly. That's something that we had going. In terms of the specifics of it, one thing that really helped was that there was, and this is also the way I work, which really helps me, which is that we had a discussion on the portal that this is what we need to talk about. Here's, here, and this is something my consultant would ask me, what do you want to discuss on this coaching call? And therefore I'd be prepared. And that 1 hour or sometimes a 30 minute would help us sort of get the best out of that conversation. So this was how we worked together in the coaching call. On the client portal, specific to my consultant, of course, always there to help with anything. Sometimes, was also so helpful in terms of ensuring that if my consultant did not know the answer, here is what you can do. reach out to XYZ, or let me talk to Kanisha and get back to you. And because of my consultant, I sort of connected with two people from two colleges that I didn't know in order to speak to them, current students, alums, etc. So the client portal for my consultant sector became a sort of, the base of every other conversation. So these were the two things that really sort of worked out with my consultant. And I think, so I still have one call left with her, and I think I'm going to thank her so much that, thank you for believing in me and really giving me the right inputs at the right time, etc. And I'm also going to thank her for one of the reasons was that she was so accessible. We've never had to reschedule calls, or we work in different time zones, but it has never been a problem. So it was easy breezy working with my consultant.
Oh, I love it. I love it. She'll see this video and be so happy. Awesome. So another thing that we have in the Application Accelerator is we have weekly Q&A calls, which the clients can come and ask the host anything that they want to ask. The host is one of our consultants. To my great joy, right now, our host is a former client that we sent to Harvard Kennedy School and Dartmouth Tuck for business school. So he's currently running our Q&A calls, weekly Q&A, and then we have weekly test prep calls with one of our test prep tutors and consultants. And then we have the weekly writing center where the clients can come and submit their materials for live editing. So I would just love to hear about, your experience on the weekly Q&A call, the writing center calls, and if you did go to the test prep calls.
Sure. So I think I'll talk about the test prep call first, because that's what I started off with. So with the test prep call, just to know that every week you can ask your questions. That was really something that kept me going through that studying process, which honestly I did not enjoy. I don't like standardized testing at all. Another thing that really worked out, and I think this would be useful for everybody who comes on to the Application Accelerator program, is that even through especially people who don't like standardized tests, is that every week being reminded by your test prep tutor that, listen, this is a test that you have to game, that you have to, it's not about how much math you know or how many words you know, you need to understand. So I think I've heard that every single week, and I enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it, because it sort of get me to refocus, wherein I would spend an entire week doing practice questions or learning concepts or coming back, and then sort of have that confidence that this is not just about X amount that you have studied. Contextualize it. What is the test asking you? What are they testing you on? What is it that you have to be? How is it that your thinking mindset has to be? And this really helped me on the day of the test and just before that. A lot of the advice, don't study just before the test, etc., etc. But that specific advice that, remember, you are going in to solve a puzzle. You're going in to solve a sort of, think of it that way, not do I remember this concept or not. What is the test maker trying to get from this? What is he really asking you? So that was really helpful. I enjoyed the test prep calls. And every week we'd have new people coming in with the same stress, and I'd be like, oh, I've been there. Look where I am right now. I'm so much more confident. And that was so important to me, Kanisha, because I hate standardized tests. I absolutely don't do well at them. Even if I know, I've taken the GRE once before I started working with the art of applying. That's when I applied to MIT. And I just went there and I was like, I cried. I had a panic attack and I cried because I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what's going on. So it was really helpful, the test prep calls. And then the weekly Q&A calls, I think during the accelerator phase, were very important, because you're learning from the modules and then sort of putting it together in your application. So I really used that time in that application accelerator phase. And, I'm sure potential clients and people who come on board will understand that as well, that in that 3 weeks, learning modules, writing, getting it edited, and talking about it on your on the weekly Q&A calls, that was a really helpful phase. And questions were wide ranging. It was everything from, is this specific word working, to is this conveying the right story and message, or here's what they said on the admission blog today, how do I go about it? So that was, and it continues to be helpful. Unfortunately, I have not been able to do the weekly Q&A call after the application accelerator phase as much because there's a bit of a time zone difference, but I'm on every other call. The writing center call was, I think it's been my backbone through this entire process. Sometimes I just go to the writing center call without having anything to be edited because so one thing that I learned from the writing center call was read it out loud and read it slowly, because that's what happens at the writing center call, that we just sort of read everything. And I do the same process now. I highlight it in pink and I know I have to come back to this. So it was like the one time that I would write, even if it were 2 hours before the writing center call, I would write as much as I could and just take it there to get that. It was like a mirror that would just sort of tell you, this is what's going on, this is working, this is not working. And I really liked how during the writing center calls we would all help each other out. That was so awesome. Especially the women among the clients, we would really help each other out, and we would be asking each other, does this work? What do you think? So it was a sort of community that we created during these calls, that I think that was a really fantastic bit. So all of these 3 calls, and of course the monthly Q&A call, which we all look forward to get the final word, to get sure this has Kanisha's stamp on it. That's something that was also fantastic.
Awesome. Wow, this is so good. So other things I wanted to just hear about your experience with using the Q&A vault. So everybody, we have this Q&A vault full of hundreds and hundreds of questions. You can kind of think of it as like a private client forum. So for those of you who spend a lot of time on GMAT Club or Grad Cafe or Beat the GMAT or Reddit or whatever, this is our own private client forum where the clients can look up hundreds and hundreds of questions that we've already answered. It's searchable, or they can submit a new question and we'll answer it. So just want to hear how much you did use it or didn't use it.
I continue to use it. I just put in 3 questions last week, so I continue to use it. And I don't think it's even comparable to a Grad Cafe or a Reddit at all, Kanisha, because this is very specific responses from people who have actually been helping people get to get through this application process. So just recently, for example, I had a question about scholarship negotiation and also about a scholarship that I'm applying to here in India, how I should go about it. And I just got 2-3 bullet points, which were really helpful. So I think the Q&A vault is one, fantastic for you to ask your own questions, and second, to go through everybody else's questions and see what how you can sort of deal with the issues that you're facing. For example, I was negotiating for Harris, and therefore I am negotiating for Harris, and therefore I wanted to see how to go about the process. Even before I asked the question, there were already people who had asked those questions. So I just had to sort of go through it and follow what's going on in that. And of course, it's such a dynamic space. Like you started the thread about the coronavirus, the COVID-19 bit. It's such a dynamic space where we're also connecting and talking about here's somebody that I spoke to, or I'm talking to somebody in the admissions team. Do you guys want to know something? You want to have do you want to connect on XYZ matters? So it's a very dynamic space in that way. The Q&A vault, as well as everything else on the client portal. So yeah, and very interestingly, so the client portal has, I think you did a little bit of Facebook before, which
we did. It was on Facebook, and then we moved everything to Facebook.
Yes, I think that was a fantastic decision, because now everything is in one place. So I have access to everything in one place, and we have a casual chat area, and of course we can ping each other. So I've pinged everybody that is going to HKS, for example, to connect with them. And I have in the casual chat area, it was really interesting because one of the other clients posted that HKS results are out. So that's where I saw it as well. So even before getting an email or hearing it elsewhere, that's where I heard that the HKS results were out, because this year it was delayed. So we were all like, when is it coming? Have you guys heard? So that conversation was sort of going on, and therefore it became such an important part of my life. Now I don't know what to do with the Basecamp app after I stopped being a Art of Applying client. So yeah, it was fantastic working with. It was like a good place where all of us connected. So that was also another thing that happened. Yes.
Oh, wonderful, lovely. And then we also have in-house mindset coaches, and all of our clients get 4 mindset coaching calls one-on-one with our in-house mindset coaches. And then we have a monthly mindset coaching call for all the clients to come together and talk about imposter syndrome, overwhelm, staying encouraged, just fatigue, all those kind of things. Did you use your mindset calls?
Of course. Yes. And I also, I needed it. I absolutely needed it through the, especially during the GRE phase. I think as much help as I could have gotten. I did use the one-on-one mindset calls. I did listen into the mindset calls that were group in nature, and I sent some questions in. So yeah, I think the one-on-one calls had a huge impact, because I was wondering when I went into it, that what is a mindset call? What do you do with it? How do you approach it? And for somebody who's very in touch with mental health, with my own mental health, I had certain expectations and understandings, and I got that, which was that here is a problem. I'm not your therapist. I'm not XYZ, but here is a problem. And here are some actionable tools that you can use to sort of go around it. So in that 30-minute call, I would take a problem and I would say, this is what I'm facing today, and I'm really stressed. And really now when I think about it, I'm so relaxed right now, although I'm applying for scholarships and I'm doing all of this. But at that point in time, when you're working, when you have GREs, when you have the application, all of it happening together, it is so stressful. It is so stressful. The GRE puts in a certain type of stress, but the writing of that application puts in a very existential stress. Like, what am I doing with my life? And that constant doubt that, am I good enough? Is this going to happen for me? And comparing yourself constantly and saying, no, wait, that person got in, they had this profile. So dealing with all of this, it needs that sort of it. And I'm so grateful that I could, get that entire package, as opposed to, like I said, here is this is a factory machine and we produce in XYZ. It was necessary for me. I don't know if everybody else used the mindset calls as much as I did, but it was super necessary for me.
Good. I love it. Yeah. One thing there are so many things that make the art of applying just completely unique as compared to other admissions consulting firms. But I would say the mindset coaching is one of the biggest things, is that we're here to help the whole person, right? So that you come out of the Application Accelerator just like being more confident, more calm, more clarity about your life purpose, your career, your short-term, mid-term, and long-term career goals, not just like, oh, I have some pretty essays. But really, like, we don't just make you look good on paper. I really feel that we make you a better person, a better version of yourself.
More sorted in many ways. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. And so Surabhi, one thing I did forget to ask about at the top of the call was your stats. So if you could please share with us just like your age, your GPA, what you studied, kind of your work experience, just whatever you want to share about your profile,
Sure.
as specifically as you want to share it.
Sure. So I'm from India. I have a bachelor's degree in economics. I have been working for 7.5 years. Majority of the time, I've been an entrepreneur. I've been running a boutique consulting firm, but I've also done a lot of work in political commentary, political activism. So this is my profile. I'm 28 years as of now. And and my GPA was 3.44. Which I always thought coming into this was a disadvantage, but we have, I just like to see this, Krisha, I know you're asking me for stats, but, converting those, what you think is a disadvantage into, explaining that actionable items that you talk about, how do I fix this in terms of my application? I think that was super helpful when I realized that that's possible. So so these are my context and the statistics that you asked.
Okay, wonderful. And to wrap up, I would love to hear the advice or encouragement you would like to give to other women, other Indian applicants, or other entrepreneurs applying.
So I think I'd like to give advice to the Indian applicants first, which is just share some thoughts that I've had on the way, which is that we have a very, you need direction and understanding of applications and college and universities, etc. I don't think that that's how you go into the US application system. That's not how you go in with respect to your own application for these colleges. And I do also feel that a lot of Indians are hesitant about consultants. And I'd just like to say that this is possibly one of the best decisions I've made in this. It is the best decision I've made in this application process, because it's not about the consultants that we often hear about, wherein it's, we're very skeptical and very sort of, think that they're going to cheat us, sort of a thing. I think this was more, I want to assure every other potential client that Art of Applying will have that this is a collaborative exercise. This is something that really makes sense, and it makes sense when you come with the right attitude. So I'd really approach, I would really advise everybody to come with that sort of an approach. With women, for just ask the questions, stand up and ask the questions, and make that a habit from when you're applying, so that you get to grad school with the same sort of confidence. Entrepreneurs, I think, is a tricky bunch to share any advice with, because everybody has their own sort of stories, etc., and come from a different context. But I think I would say to entrepreneurs that if this is something that if college is something and or graduate school is something that you've made your decision to attend and you want to go to graduate school, then you need to have all of the help and all of the support system that you can get. So I don't see why it should be any other way. But general advice, Kanisha, I think generally, like I said in the beginning, it really is a collaborative effort. Working with Art of Applying for your application process is a collaborative effort. It is not going to be that 10-step manual that you do X, Y, Z. And I think a lot of people who have work experience, would prefer it that way, that it's not a manual. Just keep asking questions. Make sure you spend the time to sort of go through all the available resources that are there, because there's a lot available. You need to put in that time and effort to sort of go through every single resource, and keep going at it, just as you're going at it with the application process. Keep going at it for with your consultant, and keep conversing. That's I think the biggest thing that I'd like to tell everyone.
Wonderful. That was amazing. Surabhi, I just have to tell you, it was a joy. It has been a joy having you as a client. And your client, success case study is one of my most favorite we have ever done. So just thank you so much for just being so great with sharing your story, so open, so specific. And I just know it's going to encourage and inspire so many people for many years to come. So just congratulations on all your great results.
Thank you.
For sure. We'll talk a little bit off camera on anything I can help you with right now. And then, of course, we're with you through May 1st to help you with all your financial aid negotiations and anything else.
Thank you so much, Kanisha.
Thanks for watching our video. For more videos just like this, make sure you click subscribe. And if you want to work with us on your graduate school applications, visit us at theartofapplying.com or click on the link below in the description.